everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am Sam. I am an artist, illustrator, aspiring knitting designer coming to you from the Republic of Ireland. And you can find me all around the internet looking for Irish farm art. Today I wasn't going to film because, of course, as you can hear from my voice, I caught a cold. I was down to London in the UK for the weekend. We were there to see the ABBA Voyage concert. Was amazing, an amazing experience. If you're not familiar with that, basically the ABBA, the rock band from the 60s, 70s, 80s, came up with the so-called avatar, which are like some sort of holograms things that actually play the music, and it's a show type of thing with a live band, a live singer, and then the ABBAs are singing themselves via this interesting constructed avatars. Difficult to explain, but it was actually brilliant. It was like the ABBAs from back in the 80s were there singing, although of course they weren't there, it were just holograms, but you couldn't tell. The holograms look like people, the interaction with the public as well, like crazy thing. But yeah, I'm very glad I went to see them. I brought back though some souvenir, which is this horrible cold. And I know already all of you are gonna comment, oh, this is just man flu, and man flu can be terrible. But yeah, I mean, I'm not feeling under the weather at all. It's just my voice and the drippy nose that is quite annoying. My voice may be going at some point, but yeah, I'll do my best to edit this video as we go. I wasn't going to film because yeah, this cold, and as well I don't have a lot of stuff to share, but once again I will be away for the next few weeks. It's been a couple of months of crazy travels and trips. Anyway, my sister is graduating in the university, so I would like to go to attend the ceremony. Graduation, for some reasons, are quite a deal in my family, so yeah, I can't really miss that, so I'm flying all the way back to Italy at some point next week, and I will work from there for a while in order to spend some time with my family. I haven't been back to Italy in a while, so that is the plan. Having said that, I won't be filming from there at all. You never know, but that is the plan. So I really wanted to get this video up before taking another long break. So, what were we saying? Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course on Ravelry. And if you are a new viewer, if you're just finding out this channel, thank you for coming by. This is my knitting podcast, crafting podcast. Is basically just knitting, in which I try to follow the classic knitting podcast schedule, talking about finished works, works in progress, acquisitions, anything and everything that is going on in my life. And you are coming to a very messy episode in which I will probably jump from a topic to the other without much sense, and we will get a lot of interruption due to this call and to the fact that I'm waiting a delivery. So stay tuned for that. It's a woolly delivery, so we may have some acquisitions. The first thing that I want to mention here is not a finished work, but it is a finished work. Somehow I managed to publish my 2022 Christmas Advent calendar, which is now hosted in this beautiful tote bag. This is from a shop in Cortina, a grocery shop in Cortina. It's called the Cooperative, La Cooperativa. Uh, I do love a good tote bag, and when I can, I always swap from a plastic bag to a tote bag, even for groceries. And they are great project bags without spending much money on actual project bags. This is the Advent calendar, so if you are a long-time viewer, you are probably sick about this Advent calendar. But I made a set of 24 Christmas bubbles that will be presented in December, hopefully, as a Advent calendar. So you can get the pattern now. It's on my Ravelry page, and it will be at a discounted price for at least this week. And then from December you will follow me on this channel, and then we can start making every day one of these little balls. They take basically no time. I would say when you make the first 2 or 3, you would spend about, I don't know, 20 minutes to make one of these. The idea came from Arne and Carlos' Christmas balls, of course, that I have knitted before. But finding them a little bit tricky to knit, I wanted to get something easier and faster, and so I came up with a different pattern, a different construction, and these balls are knitted in the round using the magic loop technique. And I knitted this using 2-strand host garn, super soft wool, but any DK yarn can work, the likes of, I don't know, Drops Charisma, for example. Inexpensive and very effective. I think with a couple of balls of each color you will get all 24 Christmas balls. One Christmas ball weighs about 7 grams, which is literally nothing, so it's a great stosh buster if you want, type of a project. But I'm very excited because at least we will get some sort of an advent calendar, something to look forward every day during December, ramping up to Christmas. And they are absolutely cute. If you have on your Christmas tree already some knitted ornament, this can be a nice way to put some more ornaments in your Christmas tree without having to spend too much time or having a very complicated technique, and just having a little bit of a color pop. The designs are all different, of course. We will have some more graphic designs, some patterns, and some more plain ones. Now they are all messy in this bag, but I will take care of showing you one by one these balls over Christmas. Once again, you can find the pattern in my Ravelry store, and the links are below in the description. We are not quite there yet with understanding how Ravelry works, so I didn't upload the pattern day by day, but I decided to put the bundle all together just because it makes my life easier. And you have all the Christmas balls, so you can look through the patterns and then decide which one you want to make, if you don't want to make them all, and pick and choose for Christmas. But yeah, I kind of recommend you to follow the steps from day 1 up to day 24, because I kind of constructed them on level of difficulties, with the idea that the first ball, the first bubble, and the first lesson, in brackets, you will understand how to knit the basic technique, and knit in the round if you're not familiar, knit with the magic loop technique if you're not familiar, and everything is explained quite easily on the pattern and on the chart. So you get that bit of a skill. Then the second step will be to change the color, and then the third step will be to introduce some stranded color work, and so on and so forth. Get into a very complicated pattern, not complicated, but elaborate pattern at the end of the 24th day. So then you acquire all the skills that this little ornament can give you. And you may want to experiment with more color work, perhaps a jumper, perhaps a pair of socks, or any other pattern. I have a lot in my Ravelry page about any other designer will have beautiful stranded color work pattern. And this is just because I kind of wanted to share with you all the love for stranded color work, and the fact that you know, some people may be intimidated to use color work and to knit color work, but it's not that difficult. So this advent calendar walk you step by step through the achievement of some skills on knitting color work. And what else? During the month of December, and I'm saying hopefully, and I'm touching wood as we speak, because I know that it's a big commitment to film a video every day and go through every single pattern, but at the same time I kind of would like to share with you a little bit my Advent traditions. Where I come from, Advent is quite a big deal. We do have every week of December some specific traditions, and generally is a feeling of waiting something big to happen, all the way towards Christmas. And it's lovely. Like, my family have a lot of Christmas recipes. For example, we do light a lot of candles in our houses. The way we decorate the house is quite particular and peculiar, and yeah, I just would like to share all of this with you while you can sit and of course knit something. Yeah, we will see. Once again, if you want to take part, you will find the Advent calendar in my Etsy shop, and I might think of getting a little knit along done as well. Maybe. If I find some nice presents, a nice prize for the knit along, we may think about that. What do you think? Is there anything that I should think about for a knit along prize, or would you like to have it here or on Instagram, or rather on Ravelry? I'm open to suggestion. This is the brainstorming phase that we can share together. And yeah, if you have any recommendation for this prototype of a knit along, please let me know. I'll be really interested in starting one, and it's of course my very first one, so yeah, happy days. Anyway, there was just a little bracket thing just to finally close the window on this Advent calendar situation. I've been working on that for the past year, and if you are a long time viewer, you probably have seen me mentioning this every other video. So happy days. The second project, which is the first finished work, proper finished work from my last video, is the jumper that I'm wearing now. And this is the Marius number 6 or number 5 by Sandnes Garn. And I found the pattern in this lovely booklet here, which is Tema 68, is a little booklet pattern. You know how much I do love Sandnes patterns. They fit so well. Like, I give you some show now. This is the jumper itself, and it's absolutely beautiful. I haven't changed anything in the pattern, followed the pattern by the letter, and it's just gorgeous. I knitted this using and I have my notes here because I am a good podcaster, using Drops Lima, which is a decay yarn. They sell it in 50 grams ball by 100 meters, so it's bang on decay. If I'm correct, the original pattern asks you to use Sandnes Per Gint, which is their decay yarn. I do have some in stock, but it is quite difficult to find in Ireland, so I always treat my stash with a lot of care, and I kind of don't wanna use it just now. But if I knew that this jumper was looking so well, I would definitely have used Sandnes Per Gint. It's 100% wool, rather than this Drops Lima, which is 65 wool and 35 alpaca. Nothing bad with that. I do love this combination. Alpaca, as I was mentioning probably in my previous podcast, brings a little bit of warmth to your garment and softness. It doesn't itch at all, like it would be a pure wool garment if you wish. And it's a little bit more squishy. The wool though in the yarn, that 60% wool, gives it a lot of stitch definition and structure to the garment, which is, in my opinion, a perfect combination. It's one of my favorite yarns to use. The only complaint is that, I mean, it's probably due to the alpaca fibers in the yarn, that if you are not careful, washing this can be quite tricky. I had instances in which my garment grew a little bit. So if you want a recommendation for me, 100% use Drops Lima, but be careful to or tighten the gauge just a tiny little bit, a couple of stitches under, or knit half a size smaller than you would probably knit your garment. I don't mind my jumpers being fitted and with a little bit of negative ease, and this yarn definitely brings all the possibility of negative ease because it stretches quite a bit. And once again, the colorwork again, absolutely spot on. I do love this very much. It was a work in progress last week, and of course, being a decay way jumper, it knitted up quickly, and I'm extraordinarily glad about that. And what can I say? I love it very much. Once again, I am always looking out for Sandnes pattern books. If you know about any around, please hit me up and send a comment here, because it's quite difficult to find them. I got a couple out of eBay, and some lovely viewer sent me through a shop in Finland, if I'm right, which was great, and I could find another one which is currently in the post. So if you know about even old ones, just please let me know. I am always interested to buy these booklets. They are absolutely magnificent, and all of Sandnes pattern, for some sort of reason that I can't understand, fit me so well. I don't know if it's the pattern written well, although the style of writing for this commercial pattern is very minimalistic. They don't walk you through every single row in your knitting, but more or less they give you measurements and stitch counts. So for example, one that strikes out to me is the sleeve decrease. So you know how you cast on for the cuff of the sleeve and then you decrease on the underarm. Sandnes pattern religiously tells you to decrease every number of centimeters rather than every number of rows, which gives you a little bit of leeway for you to play around the decreasing, and knitting a few of them, you actually get to know what fits you well and what doesn't. So This to say, they are not bringing you line by line and walking you hand by hand through your knitting. They are more like rough and ready. Having said that, I haven't yet found a pattern from Sandnes Garn that doesn't fit me. Magic. Yeah, this was my first finished work, and I am absolutely stunned with how quick and how beautiful this is. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of wear out of this. I was kind of worried that the colors were a little flashy. At the same time, this was a conscious decision. I really wanted one classic Marius sweater in my wardrobe. I have plenty, but they are like odd colors, like green, white, or brown and beige. And I really wanted a blue, white and red one, just because it's so iconic that I thought would work nice with my wardrobe, and it actually does look very nice. So happy days with that. So, second finished work is this one. These are the Lottie socks by Emily Joy Ricard, which is a pattern that is included in the 52 Weeks of Socks book from Line magazine. I know I have shown you these socks before in last episode, mentioning that I couldn't find the second sock. And I couldn't find the second sock because I didn't have the second sock. I, for some sort of mistake, put these socks into a bag of old clothing that I was giving out for charities. Some knitted garment as well as commercial clothing that I am not using anymore. And yeah, I thought it was a good idea to give them to charity. And apparently the brother of my first sock was in that bag, so I sent away one single sock. Hopefully they don't mind, but yeah, I had to knit a second one. I mentioned in my last episode that I was very pleased with these socks. They are quite beautiful. They have this little detail going through the foot of the sock and then up towards the cuff, although they are very slow to knit. This tiny detail here of lacy thing takes for ages. I got to the point that I was so familiar with the pattern that I could knit without looking at the chart, but at the same time, you know, second sock, when you already have knitted the second sock syndrome is a big thing for me, ergo it was a palaver to knit. But I do like them very much, they fit quite well, they're very nice overall, and I don't have any plain socks in my sock drawer, so it was nice to have for the winter. And now that temperatures are getting, and I'm looking that way because the window is there and it's horribly raining, temperatures are getting lower here in Ireland. I find myself wearing a lot of hand knits and especially socks. If you have been following my channel, you know that I came up with a little collection of socks dedicated to Venice. So I have a lot of hand knitted socks in my drawers. I find the sock knitting technique quite fascinating. The way the heels are engineered, all the different type of heels, is just something that it's really beautiful and really clever. So I always have a sock on the go on my needles, and I find that it's quite a good achievement if you manage to knit a sock within a couple of weeks. So it's a sort of giving myself a pat on my shoulders and oh yeah, you finished something. Anyway, this was less of a pleasure to knit just because I already had some. Mentioning about the yarn, this is Drops Fable in the color Mid Grey, and you know that I have a ton of drops in my stash and I'm trying to get rid of a little bit of the mess of compulsion buying and buying a lot of cheapish yarn in the past that is now there waiting to be knitted up. So knitting socks is a good stash buster. Drops Fable is classic sock yarn, 25% nylon and 75% wool. It isn't my favorite sock yarn, just because the fabric is a little sheer, tends to be a little transparent, and especially if you wash them a couple of times, it gets quite springing and it's not really brilliant quality yarn. Although, having said that, I find that Drops Fable sock yarn, it's great for sweater knitting. It's very, very light, very sturdy because of the nylon, I suppose, and extraordinarily, I would say cheap, but that is probably not a nice word. It's inexpensive, so you can get a jumper quantity for literally a few pennies, which is very, very good. And sweaters knit up easy. It's very smooth on the needles, and yeah, I can't fold it for jumper. I can fold it for sock, knitting a little bit. I feel like on your sock you want something that is sturdy, that lasts a long time, and that keeps yourself warm, and this unfortunately doesn't really meet that standard, but I got them done and I'm very happy that it's finally finished. I can't wait to knit a pair of shorty socks actually. I have been browsing through my wardrobe and sock drawer, and I find that most days I tend to wear shorties. Going out and in the shoes, and even staying at home or exercising, I always have a pair of shorties on rather than very high cuff, and I don't like at all mid-calf situation or mid-ankle situation socks. Is not my cup of tea. So I think I'm going to look for a nice shorty, kind of sporty, easy but interesting pattern. If you have any recommendation for me, please let me know. And as well, what type of yarn should I look for a everyday wearing short socks that can be used with your shoes, your going out and about, and even perhaps exercising. I know maybe a cotton yarn, but I never knitted socks in cotton, so is that a good idea? Let me know what you think. I am open to suggestions. Never knitted a pair of shorties before, so I am looking forward to hear your opinions and recommendations. That was basically it for my finished works, what am I saying? And I feel like my cold is getting worse and worse as I speak, as probably due to the talking, but let's carry on with works in progress. And I only have a couple this week, because of course I finished this jumper and that was the goal, and the sock was a big goal as well, and I really wanted to publish the Christmas advent calendar situation, pattern thing. So a lot of time spent on a lot of projects, but I'm very happy that I started a couple of new projects. Something quite weird happened this week. I had a little cast on bug. I wanted to cast on everything that I could. I don't know why, it's just happening. And I found a couple of jumpers that I really wanted to cast on, and I've been looking at them for a long time, and I managed to cast them on. And I have two more that are there to be casted on. I have the wool sorted, and I kind of created a project on Ravelry a couple of times for each of those. we'll get to that later on. And then I removed it just because for my mental health it's not good for me to have too many projects on the go at one time. I get confused. That's the only thing to say. I get a little bit stressed out and extraordinarily confused about what should I work on, and nothing seems to progress. But the first one that I want to talk about, that I actually managed to cast on, lives in this beautiful DeWalt tool bag that I got while buying a electric drill. Anyway, this was included in the package of the drill, and instantly I threw yarn into this, and from that moment this became my most favorite project bag ever. Holds everything. You can see needles here, I have scissors, I have all my tools assorted, and the wool as well. I am going to buy more of these DeWalts, or this type of tool bags that can become project bags. But in this lovely project bag there is a work living in, and this is the one. Do you recognize it? This is, of course, a beginning of a re-diary by Lopi. It's the Icelandic or Icelandic yarn company Istex that produces the beautiful Let Lopi and other yarns that I can't quite pronounce, but is quite famous for their Icelandic wool. And I have seen this jumper coming up in my feed on Instagram, and a lot of podcasters on YouTube, namely Kiasbod, for example, have knitted a lot of these ones. And another thing that made me actually cast on this jumper is that go to Zara, for example, which is the very famous clothing brand around here. Go to Penny's, which is our Primark in Ireland. Go to H&M, go to Pull&Bear, go to whatever brand of clothing you wish. They all have big, fat colorwork jumpers. It seems to be a seasonal thing this year. There seems to be a round yoke colorwork jumper in every single shop. And what better colorwork jumper with a round yoke than the Ridari from Lopi. So, having put all of this together, having the jumper coming up in my Instagram feed, a lot of podcasters and knitters making the Ridari, and seeing similar jumpers everywhere in the shops for the season, I cast one on myself. And although I have some Let Lopi from Istex in my stash, that again is quite of a precious yarn for me. It's not easy to find in Ireland, but it's not that difficult though. But anyway, I was feeling the yarn and I thought it was a little bit too rustic for the use that I want to have out of this jumper. I want this to be like my Marius here, just put on, wear about, maybe bring on while skiing, or the après ski type of evening time. As you know, I'm from northern Italy, and every Christmas I go back home for a month and some weeks, and I spend a lot of time skiing, and one of our favorite things with my friends is staying at the après ski after a full day of skiing, having a couple of beers, a couple of drinks, and just enjoy the music and the fun there. And of course, when you wear your ski gear, gets a little warm, so it's a parade of beautiful jumpers over there, and I think this will be perfect. I have chosen to knit this in another yarn that I have in my stash, which is Navia Duo. Navia is a Danish brand of yarn, and Navia Duo and Navia Trio, which are the two yarns that I sell, are a combination of Faroe Highland wool and Shetland wool, which is quite rustic, but not at the level of Icelandic wool. And the Navia Duo is their fingering weight yarn, which is, I'm looking at my notes because I don't remember. It is a 50-gram ball by 180 meters, which is a very good amount of yarn, and suggests a gauge between 22 and 24 stitches per 10 centimeters. The Ridari calls for 18 centimeters, so I did have my strand double, and I am using a lovely mid-grey. Of course, I love a mid-grey, together with the same blue that I use here, so it's a Drops Lima. And I'm using as well a light grey, same from Navia Duo. So the bulk will be Navia, and then I will have the accent blue from Drops. It calls for a third color, which I am thinking to get a pop color, like an orange, for example, or a red, or something quite different, rather than staying in the realm of greys and blues. I don't know that yet. That is not started. I managed to finish the bust of the jumper, and I'm going to work another couple of rows, just because I kind of want a little bit the bust to be longer, the waist to be closer to my hips, and I will cast off for the underarms. It's knitted bottom up, so you start from the waist all the way up to the underarm. You then leave it on the side, knit up the sleeves, put everything together and knit the yoke with a beautiful, amazing color work. The modification that I made is a modification that a lot of people I've seen have made actually. The original Ridari jumper asks you to knit a few rows in plain stockinette stitch. Those rows on the bottom will roll up, giving you the classic Icelandic jumper look, and then a very small ribbing before starting the color work. I decided to take off the little swirly thing and just knit a ribbing and then start the color work. Is not giving you the exact same effect of the original jumper, all the color separation of the original one, but I know that I'm gonna wear this so much more than having that little swirly thing on the bottom or on the cuff as well, on the neck. So I plan to make the Ridari following everything that I say in the pattern, but like a regular jumper. So far, so good. I love it. I think the Navia Duo knits up very, very well, and it's a good combination with the Drops Lima as well. So happy days. A lot of you have asked me after my post on Instagram where I got Navia Duo, and I'm sure you can buy them directly from the Navia website from Denmark. I found them from another Danish website which is called Hobby with 2 eyes. I'm going to link it below. I find it very well priced. A ball was about 5 euro, which is nothing for 200 meters of wool. And yeah, shipped very, very slowly, but eventually they came, and I'm very happy. I'm going definitely to buy more of these Navia as soon as I'm back from Italy, because it's absolutely stunning. What else to say about this jumper? Yeah, nothing much. This was 2 days of work. The thing that took the most was actually planning the jumper and balling up my wool to have 2 strands. it's very quick, it's a DK way, and I'm using 4mm needles, which are chunky for me. On a note, these needles here, I don't know if you can tell, I'm sure the camera won't focus on the needle, but these are the Knit Pro Nova Cubic, I would say. These are basically square needles that I am finding extraordinarily comfortable to knit with. They don't slip, they feel very grippy, if you know what I mean, and the yarn works perfectly through these. I kind of bought them just to try them without giving any expectation. They are quite on the cheap side as well, and yeah, they are turning out to be very, very interesting. Have you ever tried cubic needles? What do you think? Are they worth a bigger investment? Like, should I have more of them, or should I buy the interchangeable set? Very interested to know what you think if you have tried them. I will, if you are interested, of course, make a little review after I knitted up this jumper, so that at least we can share a little bit of knowledge. I am very, very happily surprised about these needles. Anyway, talking about needles, and especially Knit Pro needles, which are more or less the base of my knitting needles, I have quite a lot of them because they are really accessible here, very easy to find, and the price point is actually good. They are not my favorite needle to knit with, but they are a step up from those grey Amazon needles, or even from Pony. The cables are decent, the wires, and yeah, they are decent overall. I have nothing to complain. Actually, their purple cable, circular, the small ones, are among my favorite to knit socks. I think the cable is really, really nice. My favorite needles overall, of course, they are Chagos, the red ones. They are just the Rolls Royce of needles in my opinion, but you know, you can't have all the sizes on them. Anyway, when I was knitting what is my next work in progress, that I'm going to show you in a second, I was doing the ribbing using this Knit Pro Nova with the purple cable, and at some point one snipped and broke in two, giving basically my knits, leaving my knits all around the place. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was my fault or if it was like the faulty needle. Seems like the attachment here is just a little bit of glue and I slot in and out quite easily. So I am not trusting this needle very, very much, this pair of needles. And from now on, I won't really trust much this Knit Pro Nova thing. I am worried that, I don't know, the work will unravel in a project bag, or I'm knitting through maybe on holidays or when I'm traveling and the needle snaps and I'm left with a mess. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Has this ever happened to you? What are some needles that you would recommend are on the Knit Pro range, more or less, or that can be used interchangeably with Knit Pro? I'd be really interested, because having this to snap is not my first needle that snapped, but never happened in the cable conjunction. This makes me wonder if I should really upgrade my needles a little bit. What do you think? Open for suggestion here again, but this leads us through the next work in progress, which is another jumper. And this is more or less just the beginning. We have 6 centimeters of ribbing and a tiny bit of color work in the body. Before I tell you about the pattern, let me tell you about the yarn. This is Holstgard super soft wool, and this is the color amber and charcoal, which are one of my favorite combination of colors so far. It's absolutely out of my comfort zone. I never knitted an orange jumper or a rusty color jumper, but I have 2 cones of this in stash. One from Woolly Knits and this one from Holstgard. So I was like, or I start knitting something orange, or I need to sell the cone of yarn. And in my mind, I do like very much the feeling of an orange jumper or a warm brown jumper. And yeah, so I started that. And the wool, as you know, is one of my favorites. Absolutely love Holstgarn. I'm actually waiting in the post for a couple of cones to come, but yeah, they should have been here this morning, and I'm still waiting for the postman. But I'll keep you posted. We still have some time for acquisitions later on. Hopefully we'll get through this. Anyway, this is the North Sea jumper from Sandnes Garden once again. It's a finger away sweater jumper. And it comes from this booklet here, which is, yes, it's the Mr. Edition 2015, which absolutely is one of my favorite booklets. I've already knitted a couple of jumpers from this, and you can remember, for example, the full-on color work sweater that I've knitted a few months ago. If not, go back to my videos or my Ravelry page, they are all there. But this jumper is this one here. Hopefully you can see it. I decided to go with the same colors that they are using in the original one. It's basically a raglan sweater from the bottom and up, with a little color work going on through all the jumper. It's extraordinarily easy color work, so nothing complicated. It's a sort of a lace pattern that you can find in one of those fisherman sweaters that were very popular last year, with, I would say, a modern twist. And the fact that it's a raglan works perfectly with me. I already know what modification to make it very, very wearable and enjoyable to knit as well. This will be my travel knitting. I have already balled up the charcoal color, and I'm going to ball up some of the orange as well. I think it's a great sort of little project to bring with me. No way at all. This is why I love Holstgarn or any other super soft wool, because there is no weight on the fabric. It's really soft, really woolly, but at the same time it's super, super light. So it makes it a great travel project as well. This makes me think that I'm using now fixed cable needles, and I probably will need to change this into interchangeable, because if something happens at the airport, at least I will have the possibility of buying the tips at home rather than throwing the work away, because you never know if they allow this type of needles in the airport. I never had any problems, and I never brought to myself to buy wooden needles. Interesting. So here we go. This is the North Sea sweater from Sandnes, and it will become hopefully a nice little pattern, a nice little sweater coming soon. So I have a couple of more projects that I kind of want to knit up. Someone commented last week on my podcast, or the week before, if I ever tried the contiguous knitting method. And they recommended me a few patterns that I am so eager to try. The only thing that kind of is pushing me back from casting on immediately everything is that I haven't seen anything that doesn't require a lot of modification on my side. The jumpers that I've seen are very big collar necks, and they are quite feminine looking, and I would like something different probably. But I am super interested in understanding how the contiguous method of knitting a jumper works, and if you have any recommendation, please let me know, because that's quite interesting, and it's a very new thing for me. I never ever consider knitting contiguous method jumpers for no reason really, because I never came across a pattern that I like, so I never approached it. But if you have some recommendation for me, maybe on a more masculine pattern, that would be lovely. Or yeah, that's something that I would really want to try. The second one, and I'm looking at my phone because they're all here, and with my mind being a little foggy at the moment, I feel like I should give you the correct informations. So the other sweater that I wanted to try is this gingham sweater by Jessie Mead Designs. I have a long-lasting love for gingham fabric, and I do like the idea of that. And when I saw this jumper with the pattern, the square pattern, boom, a pop in my mind, and I would really love to have a black and red one. Like the many shirts that I have, there are black and red checks. I would love to have a jumper like that. I was that close to casting it on, but I had to stop myself, knowing that I am not going to be around a lot of my stash for the next while, and then not a lot of time with my sister's graduation or the preparation. Then of course working full time doesn't help at all. So that is part of the project as well. I've seen a couple of other gingham style sweaters on a Ravelry that I would love to try, and especially this one, which has sticky in the sleeves, but it works out like a raglan. If I find a pattern, I will link it here or below in the description, because I think it's a very clever construction. Though that pattern doesn't have many projects done, so I don't know if it's I'm falling into the stereotype of big designers. Anyway, let's just leave it. I'm going to try one of those just because I want a gingham style jumper, black and red, full stop, and that will be perfect for this winter. And probably, considering the amount of jumpers that I am imposing myself to knit, this will probably go for next year. Anyway, I am lingering through because I'm kind of waiting for the delivery guy to come, because I can't wait to show you the new wool that I got. But having said that, this is basically it. I don't have any acquisitions this week because we're waiting for the acquisition to come. Another question that I received is how my tech editing course is going. If you are a long-time follower, you know that I applied and I started my tech editing course from the Knitting Guild Association, which is an American institution that put together knitters and deliver courses, educational material, and so on and so forth. So I am attending the tech editing course, which is divided in 3 exams, 3 lessons, at the end of which you are kind of supposed to have the skills of a tech editor. This originally was to avoid sending my patterns to a tech editor and lower a bit the costs, but it turned more into being acquiring skills to write better patterns. Having said that, how is it going? I completed the first module, which was challenging but very, very interesting, and I am due to complete the second module. If I am good enough, that will be done by the end of this month. It requires you to edit patterns, do exercises, books review. It's a big, big thing. The thing that is kind of putting me a little bit back and requiring a lot of studying is the fact that we are working with an American association, and I learned my English in Europe. So the way I write and speak English is different from the American way to speak English. Grammars, typos, not typos, way to types, spelling. It's a little bit different, and as well the fact that English is not my first language put everything to be a little bit more complicated. So I'm currently doing a big work of improving my American English and the way that I am supposed to write in American English versus British or European English. This to say that it's very complicated. I don't know if it's... I'm still very motivated, but yeah, doing the job of a tech editor is not easy, and my kudos to all the tech editors that worked with me in the past and all the tech editors that are tech editing currently anywhere, because it's such a difficult job, and yeah, I wasn't expecting that before I started this course. Anyway, hopefully the entire thing is gonna be finished by some stage next year. I think when I'm over the second lesson, which is in my mind the turning point, the third one will be just wrapping up everything, and I'll be so much more familiar with the skills and the type of language that is required. Also, we need to take into account that it needs a lot of resources, because you need to reference a lot of books, a lot of publications, and the simple way to write notes, for example, require a specific style that is dictated by some American institutes that I'm not familiar with. So I need to buy the guides, the books, to get more familiar and to study, to acquire that type of skills. So I am a little slowed down by the acquiring of books and resources as well. My local library, you will say, they don't have much, and of course they can get some books coming from other libraries, but you know, knitting is not as huge as you may think in Ireland. We all think that knitting is the vital part of our lives, but yeah, it's probably not as much. Of course, it is for us, but for a local library, it's not. So it's difficult to find the resources in the library. Anyway, there was a lot of talking. I am now going back into my couch, probably, have a cup of tea, some paracetamol, and some manuka honey for my throat. I found this manuka honey thing is miraculous. I never bought manuka honey, although I do believe in the miracles of honey generally. But someone was mentioning this manuka honey, which is a honey that comes from New Zealand. And apparently it's very, very strong in terms of virucide and antibacterial properties or something like that. So I bought a very tiny jar, which cost me a fortune, by the way. And I found that it's actually quite effective. If you take half a teaspoon of that in your tea, really, really helps soothing your throat and your airways. Anyway, that is my new find, manuka honey. Okay, that's it. I will see you in a couple of weeks. I don't know how I will manage 2 weeks time to get the episode up, because I'll be very likely away with no cameras, but I do have a phone that have a camera, so there may be something. Or I may decide to cut completely off internet and don't look at social media, which might be a great idea. We'll see. I'll keep you posted though. Anyway, if you want to take part to the Advent calendar, the pattern is in my Ravelry page. And of course, if you have any recommendation how to build this knit along for Christmas, let me know. I'll be very happy to start looking into that. And I'll see you very soon. Bye.